Hi guys, it's another tutorial day, and in today's tutorial I'll be showing you how to make this fitted dress with statement puffy sleeves. So sit back, relax, and let's get into the video. So guys, for today's fitted dress tutorial with puffy sleeves, for puffy sleeves rather, the measurements you need are your bust, your waist, your hip, and the length of the dress. Look at the diagram. Maybe I'm making this as beginner friendly as I can. So measure your bust round the biggest part of your bust area. So my own bust is 36, my waist is 27, and my hip is 38. Then the dress length I'll be using is 36.5 inches. So if there's any other measurement I haven't mentioned, we'll talk about it as we move along with today's tutorial. Now get your pattern paper and measure a 1-inch border line at the top here and also right here. Now the border line here will be used as the zip allowance for the back, because I'm going to be using this same pattern to cut both my front and my back. So when I'm cutting my front, all I have to do is to just fold this inside, and then I'll cut my front. Then when I'm cutting my back, I'll leave it open. So now the next thing will be to measure in your dress length. So my own dress length that I want for the mini dress is 36.5. So I'm going to label this the hem of my dress. Now the next thing I'm going to do is to get my bust measurement. I'll divide it by 4. Whatever I get, I'll just add like ½ inch to it. So whatever I get from this whole thing, I'll just measure it down. Now I'm going to label this my armhole line. Now the next thing I'm going to do is to find the middle of this and this. So just measure and locate the middle, and then I'll draw a line here. Then I'm just going to call this my across chest line. Now from the top right here, I'm going to measure 1.5 inches down, and then I'll draw a line. So I'm also going to call that my shoulder line. So this is my shoulder line right here, and then the top, the first line here, we can just call it a neck line. So now the next measurement we are going to mark now is our half length line. I didn't remember to talk about that in the measurement. So look at the diagram. From your shoulder to somewhere above your navel is your half length. So mine is 16, so I'll just measure 16 inches down, and then we are just going to label that waistline. From here, from the waistline here, we are going to measure like 9 inches down, so we'll label that hip line. Now locate the middle between your waistline and your hip line, then we'll draw a line, then we can just label that upper hip line. Now get your bust measurements. Mine is 36. Add about 1 inch to it for a little ease, and then divide it by 4. So whatever you get, I'm going to mark it on my armhole line. And this is my bust measurement right here. Now get your waist measurement. Mine is 27, like I mentioned earlier. I'm going to divide it by 4, and then I'm going to add 1 inch to it. So this 1 inch will serve as a dart intake. So whatever I get, I'm going to mark it on my waistline. And this is my waist marked out right here. So now for the hip, mine is 38 inches. Divide it by 4. Whatever you get, you mark it on the hip line. And now we connect all points. So I'll connect the bust to the waist and the waist to the hip. And now just draw a straight line from the hip here down to your hem. So there you have it. Now for our darts, you come to your what's it called, your waistline here, and measure in. So you come to your waistline here, from the middle part here, measure in like 3.5 if you are a bit on like a smaller size, but if you are a bit bigger, you can measure 4 inches. And now right here you measure your 1 inch dart, so ½ inch here, ½ inch here. Now the same 3.5 inches we marked here, so you mark it right here on the armhole line. So 3.5 inches in, and this is it. So from there mark 1.5 inches down, and this is it. So now this will be known as our bust point. So we just need to connect our dart now. So connect your dart from here, and here you go. So to connect down on your upper hip line right here, just mark in like the same 3.5 inches that we marked on our waistline. So just mark it here, and then you just like connect. So yeah, that completes this part of the dress. So now let's move to the upper part right here. Now on the upper part here, get your across chest measurements, and that will be like the measurements from the, look at the diagram, from the crease of one armpit to the crease of the other armpit, and that is mine is like 14 inches. So I'm going to divide it by 2. Whatever I get, I'll just mark it right, and this is it. Now the next thing we need to do on the neckline right here, get your neck measurement. So look at the diagram, measure your neck round. So my own neck measurement is 13 inches. So I'm going to divide that by 5. Whatever I get, I'll just mark it on the neckline right here. So yeah, this is it for me. Now we need to mark and draw in our shoulder line. So most people's shoulder measurement is 5 inches, but I don't know what yours is, so you can decide to measure it by yourself so it can be accurate. So mine is like 5 inches. So I'm going to measure 5 inches from here. So you just place your tape measure this way, and then you measure 5 inches diagonally. Make sure the 5 inches touches this. So you place your tape measure this way, and then wherever 5 inches is, that's where you mark. So place it this way, and then you mark. And this is it here. So I'm just going to connect, and then once you're done connecting, you place your French cuff this way, and then you just draw in your armhole. So you draw your armhole in a way that your French curve touches this line here, and then it comes to curve into this. And this is it done. Now for the neckline, if you look at the picture, you see that the neckline is quite high. So I'm just going to, we don't really need to do a lot. So I'm just going to, from here, I'll measure 1 inch down. If you feel like it's too high and you may want to like increase the neck depth more, so you can increase it, maybe do 2 inches, 3 inches, depending on you. But for that picture, I think it's about 1 inch, so I'll just mark 1 inch down. Now before we can connect the neckline, let's come to the shoulder and like chop off like maybe 1 inch, although I don't think they chopped it off like in the picture. Honestly, I don't think I like that neckline. I don't think I like that neckline, because when you are done sewing, it's going to be a bit choky. Like the neckline is going to be a bit choky. So I don't know, you may want to, when you're sewing yours, you may want to increase the neck depth from this 1 inch, and then for the shoulder line you may want to increase it even more than, you may want to like chop off like maybe more than 1 inch that I just even mentioned. So you may want to chop off like 2 inches, just so it gives you more room to breathe. So yeah, for me, let's just follow the picture, and then I'll just chop off like 1 inch. And this completes all the pattern drafting we have to do for the dress. So the back and front neckline will be the same thing, so I can use this same pattern to cut both my front and my back, except you want to do another type of neckline for your own back. Maybe you want to do something lower, maybe you want to do like a V neckline and have like a backless kind of shape. It all depends on you. You're like the designer of your own dress, so you can choose to do whatever you want to do. I'm just going to cut this out now. I don't think there's anything else we need to do. So I'm going to add like a 1/4 inch allowance to the neckline, 1/2 inch to the shoulder, 1/2 inch to the armhole, 1 inch to the side, and 1 inch to the hem of the pattern. Oh yes, please, before I forget, because we are using this same pattern to cut both our front and our back, when you are cutting your back, you leave the borderline open. When you are cutting the front, you fold the borderline. Then for the dart also, this is not the dart point you'll be using for your back, so you make sure you extend to this upper one that we marked earlier when we were drafting, you remember. So just reconnect to this point, reconnect to this point. So and so guys, this is my cutout pattern. One thing again guys, I think the dress was cut at the waist to give it like a more cinched effect. So I'm just going to slice my pattern at the waistline here. So yeah, so I'm also going to go further to close the darts here, because I don't want to physically sew a dart on the lower part of my dress. So if your fabric, the fabric you are using, if it's a stretchy fabric, you can do that, but if it's not, please don't do this. Sew your darts on your dress. So I'm just going to close this and tape it down. So guys, these are my cut out fabric pieces. So all we have to do now is to move straight to sewing. So I don't think I really need to explain so much about the sewing because it's pretty straightforward, so that this video is not so long and we can quickly move on to the sleeve part. So all I did was also cut a facing for the dress. You can decide to cut a lining, a full lining for yours. It depends on you. So these are my facings, the spacing for the back, the facing for the front. So to sew, all you have to do is to just sew your darts. So this dart, you already know this does not have that, and then this also does not have that. So once I'm done, I'll use my facing to turn my neckline, and then when I'm done, I'll just like attach the lower skirt piece to the upper skirt piece, to the upper bodice piece, and this also to this at the waistline. Then we can now quickly talk about the what's it called, the sleeve. So guys, this is where I am now with the dress. So now all you have to do now is to measure your armhole round, because we need to cut the sleeve. So measure from here round. Mine is about 20 inches. So now I'm going to put this aside, and then I'll pick up my paper, or you can do this straight on your fabric, whichever one you want. The idea is basically to just cut like a gathered flared sleeve. So if you know how to cut a gathered flared sleeve, you can just like skip this part, but if you don't, let's just get round with it. Now I'm going to start first by drawing a borderline on my paper like I always do. So this is 1 inch, this one is another 1 inch. So now that armhole curve that we measured, mine is 20 inches. So I'll add 10 inches to it because we want to gather it. And then I'll now divide everything by 3. So that's 30 divided by 3, and that's 10. So that 10 inches, I'm going to place my tape measure at this point here, at this origin point here, and then I'll measure 10 inches down, go again 10 inches down, and go again 10 inches down, and this is it connected. So you can add a half-inch allowance at the top here, so you don't forget, just add half-inch allowance. So now for the length of the sleeve, so let's say you want when you're done sewing, like when you've completed the dress, let's say you want your sleeve to be 10 inches. So I'm going to add another 10 inches to that. I'll explain why I added this 10 inches later as we progress with the video. So that's 20 inches. So I'll now be marking 20 inches down. So just place your tape measure, 20 inches, 20 inches, 20 inches. So yeah, this is it. Now we can just cut this out. So before you cut out, please add 1 inch allowance or half-inch allowance to the hem here. And so guys, this is my flared sleeve cut out. So when you're cutting when you place your pattern, you fold your fabric and you place your pattern on it too. And this is it right here. Guys, I'm only going to be cutting one of the sleeves because my fabric has finished. So yeah, you also cut a lining. This is my lining, but the difference is that you make the lining shorter than the actual fabric. So I've made my lining shorter by like 4 inches, so it's not the same length, so that when we are sewing, this lining will pull the fabric inside, just like when you're sewing a bubble skirt. So yeah, now all I have to do now is to gather. So I'll sew a gather stitch at the top here, also sew a gather stitch down here also. So I'll do the same also for the lining. And this is where we are right now with my gather stitch at the hem. I haven't done the gather stitch for this part. So, and then I placed both my lining and my fabric right sides together, and then I had to stitch. Don't worry if this part doesn't entirely, like the lining doesn't entirely get to the end of the fabric, and just trim that part off. Now let's turn this inside out. So while you're gathering, you're just gathering. There's really no measurements for the gathering, so you're just gathering slightly. And this is what the sleeve will look like on the wrong side. You can see this is the right side. So yeah, now you can just go straight to sew your just stitch your gather stitch right here. Just sew your gather stitch right here, but don't gather yet. Now the next thing you're going to do is to come to the wrong side of your sleeve right here. So come to the wrong side, and then you just kind of draw like a slant dash like this. Draw another one. You can draw as many as you want. Then you pick your needle and thread, and then I'm going to first, I hope you can see what I'm doing. So I'm going to first like put my needle into this part first here, then I'll come back and I'll put my needle in here, and it comes at the other dash, at the other point right here. And then what you do is you pull it very tightly. So look at this, you pull very tightly, and then you can just use your needle to stitch this down so that it stays intact. And this is one that I've done. Look at what it looks like on the right side. So you see, so now you can do as much as you want, as much of this as you want. So you draw another dash and you keep going. You can do as many you can. That is why, and then by the time you are done, it will make the sleeve shorter. So that is why we had to increase the length of the sleeve when we were cutting our pattern. So yeah, now I'm just going to do all of that. When I'm done doing it, I'll sew my gather stitch right here, and then gather back to my actual the actual armhole of my dress. So when I'm done, I'll attach the sleeve to the armhole of the dress, and then I'll complete my dress. So now the next thing you'll be seeing after this part here would be me showing you the completed dress. So I hope you got the whole tutorial up to this point. And guys, this is the complete dress. Look at it. So I mentioned I was only going to make one sleeve because I don't want my fabric finished, and this is the sleeve actually on the dress. So I'm just going to put this on my mannequin now so you can see what the full fit looks like. This is the back of my dress. So you just need to fix a zipper at the back, and that will be all for today's tutorial. So guys, if you do remake this design, don't forget to drop the picture of your creation in the community tab so that others can also see it and learn from it. So don't forget to tap the subscribe button below your screen, tap the like button also, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.